Hi, I'm Barbara Robbins,
And I'm Breanna Cox.
and together we are the Awakened Woman. Welcome to our podcast. Today we're beginning Module 3 of our 8-part series of life balance categories that focuses specifically on empowerment. And today's topic is strengthening female friendships, building a powerful support network. So I'm thinking about what a support network is like, and you can have one with a lot of people or just a few people. And is it is one better than the other to have a larger or a smaller group?
I don't know. I think it just depends on what the purpose is. So maybe having a large network group is more beneficial when it comes to the more people you know, the more connected you are to different opportunities. In that sense, like more of a social connection type of way, expansion in that sense. But as far as it to me, that's almost like the question of, is it better to have more friends or less friends? I think it's better to have quality friends. So when it comes to tight net networking, when you're hanging around with people that are on your level energetically, or that you would aspire to be like, or that you have a very close relationship with, and it's very uplifting for both parties involved, I think small is good. But when it comes to maybe that whole expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know, then in that sense, I believe like having a larger network is good. You know, the more people you know, the more connections you can have. The more this person knows this person knows this person, and then you can get on this particular like talk show, or then you can go, it's just more doors opening. So I think it just depends on the context, and how the network is being utilized or collaborated with. But to me, I feel like what stands out to me is female collaboration. I feel like going back thousands and thousands of years, like as women, we're very social creatures and we benefit greatly from a sense of sisterhood. And quite often that's shattered in the patriarchal society. It's almost a sense of us being subconsciously trained to turn on each other, pick each other apart, be passive aggressive, become the I can do it myself girl. And really, as women, it's very beneficial, it's very nurturing, it's very comforting, it's very inspiring to have other women that you can count on, that you can network with, that you can collaborate with, that you can grow with. So that's what I feel.
It just occurred to me that there are different size groups for different people because some people just thrive, or like extroverted people, they just really thrive on being with a whole bunch of people, where
Mhm.
introverted oriented people tend to prefer smaller, quieter
Mhm.
groups.
I'm definitely the one that prefers smaller and quieter groups. But I
Yeah.
don't mind big networking, but I just like to keep it surface. So people, when they deal with me at that level, are likely to experience a completely different version of me than somebody I even consider myself close to is going to see a completely different version. If that makes sense. So I, uh, I feel like, different people, different seasons, different, energies, different versions,
So I've heard that friendships are like mirrors. They reflect our strengths back to us.
or things that we could work on.
Yeah.
I do feel like we attract what wherever we're at. I do believe that, and I feel like but I also think it's important for us to surround ourselves with people that we want to be like too, for the same reason. Like, I feel like if, good company is, good opportunity, but bad company drags you down. So I think who we surround ourselves with is extremely important, not just for support and networking and collaborating, but also for mental, emotional, spiritual health, financial health, things of that nature.
There's a woman that I do an exchange with, like a coaching energy healing exchange with every week. And God, I think we've been doing this for maybe 10 years. Um, and I was talking to her this morning, and I was telling her that there there's there's somebody that I talk to often that keeps on defaulting back to, oh, my naturopath has died a few years ago and I miss her so much. I can't get the kind of help from anyone like she did. And we've had this conversation a bunch of times, and I always say to her, well, have you looked for anyone?
Mhm.
And she and she's like, no. Like, well, and she did it again this week, and it really irritated me because there's somebody else in my life that it's his outdated energy loop. He keeps defaulting back to, my he's trying to sell his house, and he's like, nobody's looking at my house. And I'm like, well, your house was taken off the market. That's why nobody's looking at your house. But like, so why for 2 months, every time we talk, does he say, nobody's looking at my house? And I keep saying, because you took it, because it's off the market. But he's not, like what? And I realized that the overriding thing in for both of these people in this situation is they default to whatever is irritating them. Like their default is to feel irritated rather than to figure out the solution and then take action on it. So
And
I
I definitely understand that frustration because I
yeah.
have
So
experienced that.
I mentioned, now this is getting to where what you're talking about, your support network points out your strengths and your weaknesses. So so I mean, it was such a cool revelation for me that I figured out the archetypal loop here, non-serving loop. And I shared it with my friend, and she said, well, you do the same thing. I'm like, like, what? No, I don't. Like, oh my God. And it's perfectly fine. And she can say that, and she can say it because we've known each other for over 10 years. And she can
Yeah,
say it, and it's okay to say it because I know anything she says is it's because we're working on our stuff to improve ourselves. So I don't get
yeah,
offended by anything she says, but yeah, it's not just pointing out strengths.
yeah, absolutely. It goes both ways for sure. And yeah, I think it's important for us, like, because I've had those type of moments too in my friendships and my networks where I've had an aha moment where I was like, who's the common denominator here? I'm the common denominator, so where is this connecting me?
Oops.
You know? And it's actually funny because a lot of times, like, that'll show us what's in our shadow, because a lot of times the things that'll bother us about other people will be things that we have in our own shadow, like especially stuff that'll really, really bother us, And that was something that took me like a long time to figure out, And now when I see it come up, that's what, like, one of the first things I ask myself is, okay, where's this really coming from? Like, is this based on a personal trigger I have? Like, is this based on something that I might do that I might not want to face about myself, and therefore it bothers me when other people do it? And then
Yeah.
I have that, like, moment where I'm like, yeah, there could be some truth to that, and then I'll observe, and it's not coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from, a place of compassion. That's the tricky part too, is try to treat ourselves and others with compassion with those things, because we all have shortcomings, and we all have pet peeves. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's why relationships are so important as mirrors, like you were saying, because it does show us, like, it shows us where we've grown, where we're continuing to grow, like where, we might be about to grow or, need to grow, like who we could be, who we used to be. I mean, there's so many different levels to that. It's pretty cool.
So let's go into that a little deeper. What makes a friendship empowering?
Hmm. How do you feel about that?
Um, I think it's no, it's trusting that they're going to be there for me, that even if they give me some criticism, it's constructive criticism. It's not to put me down. It's like
Hmm.
we're on the same side. We're on the same team.
Yes, that's important to me as well. Like, definitely not feeling like somebody is trying to, like, compete, or like there's envy or jealousy there that's feeling it and it's coming from. That goes back to that sisterhood thing I was talking about earlier. Yeah, that's so important. If we could just see each other as sisters instead of competitors, or see how we can help grow and learn from each other instead of being intimidated. That's key for sure.
Um, Time for another story? I got another story.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are three of us that know each other, and one of them is this woman that I have this exchange with once a week, and then there's another woman who is on the call sometimes, but the three of us have known each other for a long time. Um, but one of and the two of us have been talking for 10 years. We've we've gotten to the point where we can and we argue. I don't know if I want to say argue. We used to argue a lot, but we have differences of opinion and misunderstandings often. And we've gotten to the point where we figured out how to have a disagreement, a very strong one, but keep it level headed and work through it to a positive conclusion for both of us. And the third woman, she comes from like a Jerry Springer kind of family. And so she's a lot of hotheads in her family, and she has not seen, actually most people have not seen two people having an argument uh that's peaceful.
Oh, yeah.
And one day, so the three of us were on the call, and the first one and I were having, we had one of our, like, no, it's not. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. And it seemed like we were really starting to butt heads. And this is long enough ago now that I can't remember any of the details really, but we we just we were like, okay, so this is what I think and this is what you think. What's underneath this? Something like that. We just I'm trying to model some of the language we used so the listeners here can get an
Right.
idea. Oh, it's been so long since I've done this because everything is just so smooth all the time now. Yeah, right. Um, um, so like what? So like well, when you, it's like when you say that, I feel blah blah blah, and I know you don't mean it that way, but that's how I feel. And then
Mhm.
she would go, oh, okay, let me clarify that. Or, oh, I see what you're saying. Let me see if I can phrase that differently. And
Right.
the third girl, she was, you could even though we were on the phone, so we weren't even doing video, you could feel that she was just sitting there not breathing and kind of shaking while mom were having an argument, right?
Mhm.
She was like just prepared that it was going to completely blow up and we were going to, like, I hate you, goodbye. But we worked it through, and it was so beautiful because that's the first time she's ever seen two people work through a disagreement to a positive end where everybody's still saying I love you to each other.
That's actually pretty profound. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And that's important. I think that's really important mentioning um, conflict resolution in relationships. That's very powerful and separating feeling from identity and like and putting ourselves on the same side of the table. We're not it's not us versus them, it's us, versus the issue. Or even looking at it like that, I don't even particularly care for. It's like us just sitting down at the table, figuring out what to do, figuring out how we can make things better, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
get on the same page. So absolutely.
And I'm seeing here some points of how to nurture and strengthen friendships. But I think it's different for different people because some, one of the points is show appreciation often, but some people are, what is it, like the five love languages?
Mm-hmm.
Some people are not good at showing appreciation. So they have a different way of,
Right.
yeah.
That's true.
And then I know I've got friends who I rarely talk to, but when we do talk, it's like we picked up where we left off 3 years
Oh
ago.
yeah, I love those types of connections.
Yeah. So I think best way to nurture and strengthen a friendship is to be open and vulnerable and don't be just superficial.
Yeah, I agree.
Quality, like you were saying before, the important thing is the quality of the relationship, not the number of people in your network.
I feel like it's also important to hold space for other people to be themselves as well, because I'm not the same person I was yesterday or 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, a decade ago. I'm constantly changing and transforming. I've died and resurrected so many times, I've lost count. And so there have been people in my life that have been able to respect that and have been able to hold space for all those transformations. And there were other people who couldn't hang with it. And it wasn't necessarily anybody's fault. Some people just literally couldn't energetically maintain that shift, and other people could. But then there were people that just couldn't go on that journey with me, more so because they couldn't accept the fact that I wasn't that other person anymore, you know? And so that is what I mean by allowing people to change. I have one particular friend that I've had for a really long time. And it's kind of funny because I actually met her through an ex-boyfriend. She was his one of his best friends in his friends group. And to this day we're still really good friends. And one of the reasons is because we both are very accepting of each other's phases and growths and transitions. And we find it to be fascinating instead of it being something to feel intimidated by or scared of, or well, I don't, like this or that. When you do this or that, it's like we're very like accepting and very like, for lack of a better word, like curious about, oh, what's gonna happen next. It's like watching a movie.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it said you connect with people either for a reason, a season, or a lifetime,
Mhm.
and they're all fine. And so the people that are in
Mhm.
your life just for like a month or two or even a day, and then you never hear from them again. Uh, it's okay
Mhm.
that they're the seasoning in your life.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I've heard this season. I've never heard a reason to season or a lifetime, but I really like that. That's cool.
Yeah. I'm sure you've probably had, maybe you didn't even realize you've had conversations with, oh, like if you're on, I found this on like a dating site, um, or dating sites, that I'll wind up meeting someone and talking with them, and I'll have an experience with them, and I'll learn something from them, or I'll teach something to them, or we'll just have this really nice conversation for that evening, and that's it. And we never talked to each other again. And so there was
Oh,
some
yes, I've
reason.
experienced that a lot.
Yeah. So that's the reason. People are there for a
Hmm.
reason, not a season, not a lifetime, just a reason for that night.
Hmm. And there have been some people, that have been very karmic. And I don't mean, see, people hear that word in the spiritual community, especially, and it just like, it's like a bell, it's like a buzzer word or like a trigger word. And it's like karma doesn't mean, you know, quote unquote bad. What it means is there's some sort of lesson that you're learning through that person. That person is a catalyst, or you're
Mm-hmm.
a catalyst for them in some kind of way. And then once the lesson is learned, then that person usually phases out of your life. Or there are cases where you can transcend that lesson and that person does remain in your life, especially if both people are very like transformative, very cataclysmic people that kind of naturally transform a lot. I do have like one connection that's kind of like that where, we started out as friends and then we dated and then we went back to being friends, and we're just kind of always morphing, and we're able to do that because both of us we're very changeable, and we're very much like go with the flow of whatever's gonna be like the best outcome for both parties involved. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like there's that, but then there's other connections where the reason that it's a season is because the season was, for you to have that particular experience and that particular lesson. It doesn't have to be like heavy either. It could be
Yeah.
something that was, very pleasurable, very light, but it was still for a very specific lesson or a very specific experience. And then once that was done, that person's reason for being in your life expired. And so
Yeah.
they're just sort of naturally they leave, or you leave. And yeah.
Yeah. Like you could be good friends with somebody that's your neighbor, and while you're living there and they're living there, you're great friends. But then one of you moves out of state and the season is over with. You were there to be friends in person, but not just to like talk on the phone or send emails to each other.
Right. And there's other people that I've met that I've never met in person. And like we started out meeting online and we're still friends, but we talk. I've never met them
Yeah.
in person. And there's not very many. Like I gotta be honest, I don't have a lot of friends. And the ones that I do have, they're a mix of people I've known for a long time that you know, I know like they're there for me and that's why they're still around, and I'm there for them. And then there's other people that they're in my life because we have like a spiritual connection of some kind, but we haven't
Mm-hmm.
really met. And then there's the people that are in my life because of the history, and those people, it's more of like touch and go, like we reconnect every once in a while. And then it's kind of like that's it. It's like to, reconnect, talk about, things, and then we kind of go our separate ways again. It's more touch and go. But I don't really have a lot of like friends that are just, I'm not one of those people. Not that I am not open to, not that I wouldn't like this, but I don't have like a Sex in the City group of friends or something where I'm just super tight with this like group of women or this particular one woman best
Yeah.
friend and we just talk to each other every day. Like I don't have that kind of friendship like group, you know. I mean, I'm open to it, but it's just not my reality at this point in time.
Yeah. Do people have those groups?
Oh, yes.
Huh. Interesting. I guess
There's
okay.
a lot of like, I would say, because I mean, if you want to go off of like personality traits and stuff, I'm more of like what you would call a Sigma female. So I'm more of like a loner type. So like my friendships, it's like, it's more so like, oh, I feel like socializing. And so I'll hit somebody up that I have a good connection with, I have history with, and we hang out or spend time together. And I'll be like, oh, I have like, for example, I have one friend that I will typically go see concerts with. We don't really hang out otherwise, you know. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like that is what we do together, and I kind of have my friendships compartmentalized like that, where I have different friendships where they bring different things to my life, and I bring different things to their life, but I don't particularly have like just like that one best friend that I do everything with or that I'm super close to or anything like that. Whereas like you'll see like by contrast, like the alpha females will typically they're like the queen bee type that's like surrounded by their minions. And I don't mean that like in a disrespectful way, but I just mean in a
Hmm.
sense where they usually have like a clique of girls that they always have, that they're always around and they're always spend time with. And I've just never been that kind of person. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just never been me.
I think I had that in high school, but that was it. We had a group of girls that we ate lunch together every day. We had parties together, went to the beach together during a summer break.
And it's a beautiful thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there's no reason why we can't have this as adults. I
Hmm.
just haven't had that experience. I also don't think I'm really I haven't found my tribe yet since being an adult. I feel like when I move to a location where I want to be at, my next location, as I'm in that liminal space right now, I feel like that's going to open up a lot of doors for me with that. Like um, I'm not discontent with
Yeah.
like my friendship dynamics, but like I feel like I might experience some shifts in how things are done in the female world because I've become very open over the years because I was one of those women that used to say, I don't really want that. I don't really want to depend on people, or I wasn't very good at working with people, like working with others. I remember even when I had 9 to 5 jobs, like I was good at my job. I was nice and polite, and then I'd want to go home right afterward. I didn't like mixing work and socialization. And then years later, I learned to kind of do that a little bit, but it's just like I've never been that kind of person that has to be around people or wants to socialize all the time. And so I've always been very selective. And I can be very social, and I don't have like social anxiety. I don't mind, like I can go and talk to anyone, but it's just like the need isn't there, but it's no longer coming from a space of, well, I can do it on my own and I don't want to work with others. And because there was some fear-based anxiety of like if I'm around other people, they're going to try to take my idea, or I'm going to feel like there's competition, or I'm going to feel like they're going to try to put me down or whatever, because I had some experiences like that where when I would get around other women that were supposed to be friends, there was always some competition or melodrama going on. And so after a while I was like, yeah, I don't need that. But I realized a lot of that had to do with, again, going back to what we were saying earlier in the podcast, there were some traits in me like that, that I was reflecting that back to myself because I had a lot of fear of that. And so now I
Yeah.
feel like I've cleared that and I'm very open and happy to collaborate and connect with other women. And I think it's actually awesome because when we all come together and we all have something different to offer, it amplifies like what we can do. So I think it's actually quite beautiful.
It amplifies what we can do. I like that. I'm in my close relationships are with people that are at opposite ends of the country and yeah, like 6 time zones away from me. There's nobody here locally. Um, but I'm just thinking, wow, how cool would that be to have some really strong local connections that that I'm not one to sit there and have like cocktail party talk and let's just go see a movie and go bowling and that's it. I'm a like let's get stuff done. Let's be proactive with making the world a better place. Um, but to have some, but I'm not like a super activist person. But to have a group of friends local that you actually do stuff together that's in your wheelhouse that that you want to that you do for like helping the world become a better place. That's a really interesting concept. I read a little meme the other day that said something to the effect, if you're going to overthink, you might as well overthink that everything works out better than you can imagine. Something like that. It was
Right.
longer than that, but that was it.
That's
rather
cool.
than when you overthink, it's like, oh no, my world's going to end. I'm going to die. It's just going to be lonely forever. But to imagine, wow, things could actually be better than I ever imagined. Wow. So I'm thinking of that right now. Like, wow, to have local friendships where we do things that are in our what is it? Wheelhouse isn't the right word, but I don't that are like deeply meaningful, but are helpful
Right.
too. Yeah, just wow, to imagine having that.
It's funny how you mentioned like not really having friends in proximity. That's been my experience quite often too. And it's weird it'll tend to happen that way. Not always. I mean, there's been periods in my life where I did have friends that lived in the same city, but there's been, I would say the majority of the time, it's been where I've lived at least 2 or 3 hours away from everybody I know. Like,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just kind of funny. It's happened like that. And auspiciously, I did, meet some people since I've been in my current location, but none of them were really what I would call close friendship material. They're people that, hey, when
Hmm.
I see them out and about, or occasionally we might do something, but we're not, I wouldn't say we're close. And then I actually have a pretty good friendship with my ex, and so I do have that, but yeah, I just, as far as like female friends and stuff, like I'm very open to connecting with all different types of women for work, for work reasons, for, you know, connection,
Hmm.
recreation, building, whatever, it just depends, I guess, on how we click. I think because I'm such an odd bird, like not in like a, I don't mean that in a critical way. It's just like I feel like I have a particular type of like personality that I can get along with anyone, but I feel like as far as like having really good close friendships, it's a little harder for me to connect with people where I feel like it resonates, where it just hits. Like that's harder for me, I guess, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
What's your Myers-Briggs type again?
INFP.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's why I feel like that too. I'm an INFJ, and
I
there's something.
remembered you were really close to it. I just can't remember
Yeah,
exactly what it
there's
was.
something
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok about INFJs personalities. Like we're only 1% in the world. I saw this yesterday, and it was something about the combination of like outgoing but introverted and going deep but being fun too. It's such a weird combination that it's hard to be friends with people because they're like, who are you? What?
I resonate with that. Like, we're only one letter off, so I think there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
And what's funny is people that know me really well, they know I'm an introvert. But people that meet me out on the street might think I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
And they might even think that they're getting the full enchilada and they're not, So that was
Yeah.
always kind of an interesting thing with my personality is I have this way of presenting myself in a way where each person is getting like the full spectrum, but really nobody is. And it's not because I'm presenting myself as something I'm not. It's just because different people will draw out different, versions of me.
Right. That's a nice reason for having a larger network is because different people bring out different things in you, and you
Mhm.
bring out different things in other people, and you need different
A hundred
things from
percent.
different people
A
because,
100%. And we all have something to, I believe we all have something to offer everybody. I really do believe that.
oh, yeah.
Everybody has something they can offer everybody. We can all learn something from anybody. I believe that. I don't
Yeah.
care who it is.
Yeah. And that brings us to our little teaser about our next episode. Because next time we're exploring something that every woman needs, how to communicate boundaries in relationships.
Ooh.
Yeah, from friendships to family to the workplace, boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to healthier, more respectful connections. And we'll share practical tips and real life because we always share real life examples. I can't help it. I'm going to do it even if you don't want me to. So we'll share practical tips and real life examples to help you set and maintain boundaries with confidence and compassion. I think you'll definitely want to tune in. So until next time, I'm Barbara,
And I'm Brianna.
and we are the Awakened Woman.